up for tomorrow morning.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, it's videoing now.
Okay. So we want to get the surname, don't we?
Well, I guess first of all, you're going to need a person. So we're going to, the
Yes.
system under test is a new person. So create a person. Cool. Excellent. So that's our system under test. Now let's, okay, so that's our arrange. So we've got our 3 A's, arrange, act, and then assert. So that's our arrangement. So now let's act. Let's say person dot surname equals, and then some nasty lowercase string. Cool. And now let's do an assert. And we want to check that they are equal. So it's assert.are equal. And what are we expecting to see?
Person dot surname is equal to, well, it's the same as King, but with a capital K.
Cool. So our first parameter there expected is King, isn't it? Our expected value
expected one. Yep.
Yep, is King with a capital K. And our actual value is person.surname. Okay, and what I want you to do is I want you to put a breakpoint on line 16 and debug the test and have Fraser look at the debug output with you on this shared screen.
Okay.
So Fraser, I don't know if you've caught up yet. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Yeah, I'm same with it.
But you okay with what Alex has written in that test?
Yeah, I want to stop again. Cool. Yeah.
Cool. So let's watch the debugger step through this. So you're going to want debug.
So
Okay, you're just getting rid of the tut.
So it doesn't stop it from running, I think.
Okay, cool. Okay, now there might be a bit of an issue. Okay, you can delete those. Just hit your delete button. They're from your old thing, aren't they?
Yep.
Let's look at the debug toolbar at the top. Underneath the word monopoly, you've got the little blue down arrow. Right on the top toolbar. Up. Right. Keep going. Right.
Oh, it might be covered by the thing. And
oh,
yeah,
it's underneath the. There we go. Step into F11. So let's step in. Oh, do you know what happened? Let's go into person.cs. Because it's a property, it kind of assumes that you don't want to step into this little bit of code, but we actually do. So put a breakpoint on line 38. There we go. And then just, rerun the test. Or hit debug again. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so we're just about to set the name to King. We step in. And I want you to hover over the word value. Okay, so this is a bit of C# syntax, right? Normally when we're looking at methods, you can see that there's a parameter called something, number of dice to roll or desired value or whatever. But for this property, there's a magic one the compiler puts in called value. All right, we don't specify it, it's part of the language. When we write this kind of property, all right, so surname is a property, first name is a property. When we write the setter, it has this value parameter as if by magic. And you can see here that it's been passed in as king, which is what Alex was trying to set it to. And once those substring bits of code have run, you'll see, oh, hover over this .s name to start with. Right, it's currently null because we haven't assigned the value yet.
Yep.
When the class is created, so s name is empty. It doesn't have value yet. Okay, so now let's hit F11. There we go. And now hover over this .s name. Look, it's been formatted to king properly. It's got the capital K. And this is the point. One of the points of having these public properties is so that we can control what's inside our class, the values that are in there.
Okay.
All right.
Mhm.
And we've got a public thing called surname, which actually gives you a private thing called s name. But as the public user, if I use your person class now, I don't care about what s name is. I don't even see it. I don't know that it's there. I just know that when I give it a shit bit of data, it gives it back nice and clean whenever I want it. Okay, and if, good, okay, so let's carry on and run the test, see if it passes. And it has it passed?
Is this looking at the wrong? Oh no. Yeah, it's good.
Mhm.
Okay, so the dice shaker tests have failed somewhere.
Okay, yeah,
That's all
that's
right.
fine.
You can fix that another time. Okay, cool. So now let's write the same test, but for first name. So you can copy and paste it pretty much. Cool. And let's just run that and watch it fail because we know we haven't put the formatting code in there.
Yep, just take that off. Oh, no, it doesn't matter. Debug, does it?
That's right. You haven't got the debug point on there anyway, so hopefully it'll just run through and.
Yep.
Cool. Expected Alex, but it's actually Alex. Okay, so let's go and fix the failing code.
So we essentially want to copy and paste this into the.
Well, this is the next bit of programming question. Okay, so let me tell you one of the principles that we have in programming. It's called DRY, which stands for don't repeat yourself.
Okay.
So what you're about, what you might, your gut instinct to do is cut and paste that line 38, the processing bit.
Mm-hmm.
You could put it onto line 26, couldn't you? And it would just work, we think, and it would. But let's say you wanted then to change it to cope with Scottish names like McClavity or Phil McCavity or something like that. So it's one of the MC names, which then has another. Where I'm going with this is if you've got this code spattered around everywhere, you're going to have to change it everywhere it needs changing.
Mm-hmm.
Say you wanted to add in a hyphen. If you've got it cut and paste in two places, you have to go and change it in two places.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which isn't the dumb thing. Is the lesson here. So what we're going to do instead is write a little utility method, and both of your properties will call it instead. So let's have a private method underneath, right at the bottom there, just after that. After those, okay, yep. Let's have private string, and let's call it format to initial capitals, or it just initial capitalize, or some name which suggests changing to a capital letter. Yeah, call it initial capital. That will do, won't it? Okay, that's good. And you've got a capital letter because it's a method. That's good. And we're going to need a parameter in here. So let's open earrings, and in there, let's say, let's call it original. So string original value. It's a poor parameter name, but that will do. It explains. Okay, and then inside a block of code, you can copy lots of line 38 there. You can take your processing code. All right, let's take that, stick it in there, and okay, it's no longer called value, it's called original value. All right, capital V's, cool. And you're just going to put the word return at the beginning.
Okay.
And a semicolon at the end.
All right.
So what we're doing here is whatever value we're passing in, we're then chopping up and returning it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you can see that on line 42. It says private, so people outside of this class can't use it. This is the internal workings of the class. The string is the return type. We're returning a string from this method. And the parameter is original value. All right, you can call that parameter whatever you want. You can call it X if you like.
Mm-hmm.
As long as it's X on line 44 and X on line 42, you're okay.
Yep.
All right. So now instead of on line 38, you explicitly write in that code, you can call that method. So you can put this.sname equals. I would use the this in the front of that, put this dot initial capitals, and we know that the magic parameter here is called value. Cool, excellent. And you can now put that the same for line 26, right?
Yep.
Oh, there we go. Cool. Now, what that means is that I know that looks like we're repeating ourselves, but we actually aren't. The processing is only being done only being written once.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, line 40, well, that method, line 42, we're calling the method twice. We're calling it from the first name property and from the surname property. So we're calling it twice, but crucially, the logic is only there once. The logic for chopping up the string. So if we now want to change it to add hyphens and exclamation marks, we only need to change that method, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Do you understand,
So
Fraser?
do it multiple times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It can be a bit confusing because I said don't repeat yourself, and then we've got this code which looks, line 38 and 26 look the same. But importantly, it's the processing logic is only being written once. Okay, let's run those tests now and see if they both pass. Because they should do, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Cool. Let's go back to our person class. Do you think that the fields, and there's no right or wrong answer, line 13 and line 14, F name and S name, do you think they're sensible variable names or field names?
Yeah, I guess it might be better to have it as first and surname, but
I would tend to do that. I would tend to write it as first name and surname. But it must be lowercase, which you've got, haven't you? That's good.
yes.
Yeah. Okay, but the reason I made them different is because I don't want you to just think that there's some other magic going on, right? You could call first name X and surname Y.
Yeah, it wouldn't be very
It
easy
wouldn't be
to figure out what
great
it does.
for you as the code maintainer. No, it'd be awful.
Yeah.
But crucially, your public part is well named, isn't it? You've got
Mhm.
first name. Well, we know what that means, and we know what surname means. And the fact that it maps to F name or X or Z or whatever you want is irrelevant from the outsider's perspective, but it makes sense for you who is maintaining this class to call it first name and surname. All right, and actually, for the sake of the lesson and for the sake of coming back to look at this, could you rename line 13 to just be X? All right, it's a stupid thing, but I'm trying to make a point here, which is there's no link between the first name property and that X field, if you see what I mean. There's no magic going on. Obviously, you've done what you've said, what I've said there, Alex. Perfect. You've changed first name to access the private workings called X.
Yeah.
Good. This can be a tricky concept to grasp, right? Because you are maintaining this class, so you're seeing the inner workings. But if you were to give me this library of code, I wouldn't ever see that. All I'd ever see is first name and surname. That's the public exposed bit. Okay, that's good. So we've deliberately given one field a shitty name to make the point.
Yes.
That the public is the nicely exposed thing. Okay, good stuff. So let me give you some English phrases. Private string X is a field on the class. It's a field. Public string first name is a property. And the property has the getter and the setter and controls access to X. All right?
Right.
You might want to make it so that somebody can't set what X is. You might want it to be a read-only field. And we'll come to that in a minute. So let's have a look at, oh, hello. Oh, you can't see the dog, can you? Can you see the dog?
Yeah, we can.
There he is. Hello, boy. Little moss chops.
Boy.
Yeah, he is stinking, isn't he?
Yeah.
Dirty dog.
That's you.
So we're using the getter and setter to control access. If we don't need to control access, if we just want to expose it, we can do it without the private field. So this is getting around to answering Fraser's question now. So let's create a public property for date of birth, but without the private field. Cool. And I want you to have a getter and a setter for it. Just get, semicolon, set. And so to answer your question, Fraser, when the compiler builds this code, it will look at line 17 and it will say, oh, you haven't given me any code block, so I'm going to glue in a private field for you called lowercase dob. And it will do that work for you, except you never get to see it. It just happens at runtime, all right? Okay. So what we're saying here is, here's another public property, but we don't need to control what's being sent into it. As designers, we've decided that we don't need to control what's going in there.
Okay.
Okay.
Except when we go back to our story, we'll say, hang on, we don't want anybody who's less than 6 years old or over 100. So we probably do need to write a getter and setter. But for now, let's forget about that. Let's have a look at a new read-only field called age. And age, we're just going to measure, for the sake of this game, we're just going to measure age in whole years.
Okay.
Okay. So if you're 19 and a half, you're just 19. If you're 20 and 1 day, you're just 20. All right. So let's have public int age. And this is going to be a read-only field. We're not
it
going to have a
public or-
setter. I'm sorry?
Public or read only for the.
Actually, just so it'll be public int age, and let's just have a getter. So it's like your first name
Mhm.
property, but without the setter, because we're not going to set someone's age, right? We're going to set their date of birth, and we're going to calculate the bastard's age. We're not going to let them say, I was born in 1900, but I'm only 8 years old. That don't make no sense. So let's have get, so let's return. And this is going to be interesting, okay? Because I'm going to show you a few date calculations, but these are really piss simple.
Mhm.
So I want you to do datetime.now minus this.dob and put it all in, put that expression in brackets. All right. And when you subtract one date from another, you get a data type called a time span. So if you now go to the end of that bracket and hit dot, and you want, is there a total years?
Yeah.
Keep scrolling down or typing, whatever. See what you can see.
Doesn't seem like years is coming up.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
No. Okay. What about just dot years instead of dot total years? Oh,
Mm,
no.
nope.
Okay. So I'm making this up as I go along. Days, minutes, seconds.
Could do days and then
Divided by 365.
yeah.
And so we know it's a bit flaky for leap years.
That's yeah.
Or well, let's have an alternative. No, here we go. Here's another way of doing it, right? Really simple. Let's do datetime.now.year.
Yep.
Minus this.dob.year.
Yeah.
And that will give us an integer.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. Let's put a semicolon on there. And let's write a unit test.
Seems to be quite, there's like a big, an error with mine.
Is there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Alex, you're right. Just go back onto
Oh
the,
yeah. So, which bit? On the-
just that the date time. I've got a problem with the, yeah, just under the date dot time, date time dot now dot year. Oh, okay. I think I've got it.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got it. Thanks.
Cool. Now, when Mike did this, he was near Meg's birthday, and he wanted to round it up to, well, her birthday's in 2 days, so actually she's 23, not 22. But that's a programming exercise and a business logic exercise, right? That's for you to decide how you want to calculate.
So what we're trying to find here is age calculated correctly, or
Yeah, is age correctly? Is age correct?
what are we doing?
So, okay, first thing is we need to arrange our test. So we create a person and we set their date of birth.
Date of birth.
So it's person.date of birth equals new date time. And as you open brackets, you'll see the
Yep.
parameters.
It's how old shall we do?
Okay, so they're born in 2000 and in January the 1st.
Yep.
So that makes them, what, 20 years old?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Let's do an assert.
Yeah.
Person.age we want, isn't it?
Oh yeah. Okay. Cool.
It works.
Seems to, yeah.
Cool. Okay. Now I think next year, when the year ticks over, this test will start failing
Mm-hmm.
because,
We've only got it to.
well, we know it's calculating from today, don't we? We looked at, if you go and look at the age calculation in person, it's using date time now, and date time now is today's date whenever we are.
Yeah.
So in 2020, it's going to work. In 2021, it's going to start failing.
Yep.
And that's all I'm going to say about that for now. There's a whole rabbit hole we can disappear down here, but enough to say this test will work for the next month and a half. All right. And when it starts failing next year, maybe we'll come back and fix it and look at why and how to fix it.
Okay.
Cool. So if you could just go back to person for a minute. So we've got our private field X with our public property first name. And we've got our private field surname with our public property surname. And we've got a date of birth property with no field. It's just a getter and setter, which just means whatever value gets pushed in there is what gets stored. And we haven't got a chance to interfere with it. Okay.
Okay.
And we've got an age, which is a public property without a field. Okay, it's just getting some calculation based on something else in the class. Okay, so you can see there's no private field for age either, is there?
No.
So when someone does person.age, it goes and looks at the date of birth and does some sums and then gives you a value back. Okay. So I'm just demonstrating there a read-only property. We're just getting it. We're not setting it. We could set the date of birth, but we can't set the age. It doesn't. There isn't a real field for it. It's just a calculation.
Okay.
Cool. So let's have a look. Now, we said that there would be, people shouldn't be older or younger than
5 and
6 and 100 or something.
6.
Yeah.
6 and 100. Yeah.
Minimum player age 6 years, maximum age 100. So much like when we checked your first name for having a lowercase letter, we now want to do something similar for date of birth, right?
Mm-hmm.
We want to fail if it's lower, if the age is lower than 6, or if the age is greater than 100.
Okay.
And we want it to fail when someone sets the age. Sorry, when someone sets the date of birth. So I think we need to now change from having an empty getter and setter, Fraser, to actually having a private field so that we can, you know, we need some code in there.
Mhm.
So let's follow the same pattern as we did for first name and surname. Let's have a private field for date of birth. Cool. And now let's put some code in there to throw an error if the age is incorrect.
Okay.
So, oh, okay. No, I beg your pardon. Look, so you're right. Private datetime dob, and now it's your public datetime dob. Is that we're going to edit? So we're going from a no field, empty getter and setter, to having a field and putting some code in. Cool. Nice separation there. That's good. And what we know is that if we've already set the date of birth, then it must be a valid value. So the getter is going to be simple. The get is going to be just get return this .dob. Okay. Oh, that needs to be a lowercase d, doesn't it? Cool. And it's the setter that's going to have the complexity in it. So let's write our setter. And I'm just going to dictate the code for you because when you read it, you'll understand. Okay. If so, let's type if open bracket, if value is less than, oh, okay, this is interesting. Well, it's the age we're checking, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mhm.
But our age relies on us having set the date of birth. But we're interfering with the setting of the date of birth. So suddenly our age calculation's screwed, right? Because this is the bit that's setting the date of birth. So when you look at line 35, if the date of birth hasn't been set, that thing's going to fail.
Yes.
So that sounds to me like we've got a problem brewing up. But let's say we're going to use the age and we'll fix it on the fly. So if oh, we need a method called calculate age. That's what I'm saying. And you'll see why. If I'm not careful, I'm going to talk too much and you're just going to go, what? So let's have another private method called calculate age. So you can leave that as it is. Just scroll down to your other formatting stuff. And underneath there, let's have, so underneath initial capitals, let's have another one, or wherever you like around there. And we want public int calculate age. And what we're going to do actually is we're going to pass in two dates. Let's call it calculate age at date. Okay. So what this function is going to do is we're going to say, given a date of birth of 1900 and a date of 2000, tell us how old someone is.
Okay.
So someone born in 1900 at the year 2000 is 100 years old. So what I'm doing here is I'm removing the reliance on datetime.now.
Right.
Okay. So we're going to pass in the, let's have a date time called target date. And let's have another parameter, another date time. And let's call it date of birth, but have that as one word. Lowercase d, capital O, capital B. Brilliant. Okay, so what this method is going to do is going to say, look at these two dates and calculate how old the person is against that target date.
Okay.
So now let's do the very simple date maths again. We want return target date dot year minus date of birth dot year. Okay. So we know that if we pass in the 1st of January 2000 and today's date, a target date of today, we know someone's 20 years old. Ooh. Actually, let's do a dirty trick. Oh, you have already. Excellent. You've called it public. All right. So let's write a unit test for this bit just to check. So
Okay.
you might need to comment out a bit of code at the top.
The age one, or
Actually, no, just for line 27, just change that to set. So change the setter to this dot dob equals value. Right, so we'll just pretend that we're not doing our checks yet. Okay. So now let's rerun the tests just to check that the age thing is working, right? So when we set the date of birth, we know that they're 20 this year.
Yep.
Cool. Okay, so now let's write a test that checks your calculate age method. I mustn't lose track of time because I have, unsurprisingly, yet another meeting. Who's this one with next? Oh, shit. Oh, bollocks. Okay, so let's have a person class. So let's do our arrange.
and the date as well.
That person's date of birth can be correct there. Okay, so now let's call. Let's see how old this person was in 2015 for this test.
Okay.
Right? So rather than using today's date, which is always going to change, let's code it to be 2015. So now let's do person. What do we want? Assert.r equal. And we want the expected value to be 15. And the actual value will be person dot calculate age at date. And now open brackets. Let's pass in two dates. The target date is sometime in 2015. So you want new date time.
So
That's it. New date time.
Yep.
And let's have a date of sometime in 2015. So 2015 1/1 will do, isn't it?
Yep.
And then our target date. Sorry, that's our target date. And now the date of birth we want to calculate against is well, person.dob. That will do. And in fact, we didn't need to set that person.dob, but since we have, let's use it.
Mhm.
Okay, semicolon at the end. Cool. Let's see if that works. Let's see if that gives us 15.
it does seem to have done.
Cool. Okay. Great. So now we've got an age calculation routine that takes 2 dates and is therefore more useful because it means we can future-proof our unit tests
Mm-hmm.
and say, rather than using today's date, which constantly changes, let's test against a known values whenever we run the tests. So let's go back to our person class. And now that we've got an age calculating routine, we can use it. But here's the thing. Let's look at our age getter at the moment. Let's change that now to call our method that we just wrote.
So
We don't want to repeat ourselves. So we're going to call calculate age at date. And our target date is, well, today. When we're consuming this class, whenever we want to look at someone's age, we want to know how old they are right now. Okay, cool.
and then it's is it Dob?
Yeah,
This one?
this dot date of birth.
Okay.
Cool. Okay, so let's run our unit test and check that they still pass, because we just changed one of our methods, one of our properties. And it's actually, it's the is age correct one is the one we're now testing, because that's the thing we just changed, and it's still working. Oh, actually run it, double click it. Oh, sorry, you might need to right click it and choose run. Run them all. Yeah, that's still working, that's good. All right, so we changed the code, so we reran the test to make sure we hadn't broken anything. That's good. Okay, so now we can change our date of birth to start putting in our validation. If the age that's coming in means that, sorry, if the date of birth that's coming in means you're less than 6 or greater than 100, then we want to throw an exception. So let's have, actually, let's have a new bit of code and on the line above or line before. There we go. Let's say if, oh, excuse me a second. Oh, bear with me. Jason King, good afternoon. Hi there. Sorry, lads.
All right.
Okay, now this is the change. This is where we want to pass in value instead of date of birth.
Oh yeah.
Cool. And so if it's less than 6, then we
want it to not.
we want it to throw an error. So that's good. You've got your close it. Oh, so you need a closing bracket there, don't you? For your if. Okay, so that expression on line 27.
Oh yep. Yeah. So.
You need a close bracket after the 6. Okay. And what we're going to do now is throw an exception. So just, yep, you do want you want a code block.
Yep.
Throw new, and okay, inside there, throw new exception with a capital E. And then pass in a string too young. Just write too young for now. All right, that's good enough. Okay, and now we want a similar thing, but for 100 and too old. So what that's doing now is we're still controlling what comes into the class.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, we're going to catastrophically fail if it's the wrong thing, right?
Right.
Whatever's consuming this code, if they haven't ensured that you can't put a stupid age in, it's going to blow up. That's what throwing an exception does. So now let's write a unit test for setting a sensible age and it not blowing up. And in fact, I guess what your test on line 37 there is age calculated correctly. That will test that code, won't it? Because we're setting them to be 15 years old, so that will pass the test. You know, that is neither less than 6 nor greater than 100. So that is
run that one.
That's check. Yeah, let's run it. Check that we haven't blown it up. Yeah, good.
Yeah, seems to be fine.
Just click on player test 4. Look, there we go. Just run them all from there. There you go. So they're all good. Yeah. Okay. So now let's go back into player test. Okay. Now there's a special kind of test for when we want an exception to be thrown.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an expected. We did this before, didn't we?
I think so.
Yeah. Cool. So let's go and have a look at one of the other tests.
This one,
There we go. When we tried to place the dice with a minus number, it blew up. That's what we wanted. So we're going to do a similar thing. Look, you're going to copy line 37. In fact, and 36, you might as well copy them both. There you go. And now let's...
Is that in a new test or just
yeah,
replace?
no, we'll write a new test.
Okay.
So we're testing that the thing throws a wobbly when we want it to.
Was that on the D6 or Dice Shaker, the exception one?
It was
It was on the D6 one, I think. Yeah.
D6 test. So exception thrown when too young. That's a good name for it. Because it's describing what we're testing, right?
Yep.
Great. So we want to arrange, act, and assert. In fact, we don't want to assert because there's an exception being thrown. We just need to arrange and act.
So, do we just want the person to be 4 years old or whatever? Then?
Yeah, that'll do, yeah. Or you could even just set that yeah. I'll tell you what, let me teach you another trick. Let's make them 1 year old and they will always be 1 year old. Okay, so here's another little trick for you. So set this to datetime.now. Instead of new date time, just put person.dob equals datetime.now. Okay, and we don't want them to be 0 years old. We want them to be 1. So let's put dot. Oh no, yeah, add days, sorry, add years -1. So whatever today's date is, subtract a year from it, and that's their date of birth.
Okay.
Cool. And as I said, we can't assert because we're expecting an exception to throw. So it'll get to the end of line 49, and then the code should blow up, except that we're expecting it, and the test system will handle that. Okay, so now let's run that test and see if that passes. Run them all. Right. Sweet. The exception must have been thrown.
Okay.
Okay. If you want to check that, just change that to -7 and run it again, and it should fail because someone who's 7 years old will be allowed. Yeah. And it's saying it didn't throw the exception.
Okay.
Because, and that's fine because they're 7 years old. Okay, so let's go and change that back to 6. Oh, -1 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Okay, and now write a similar one for them being over 100. And then I'm going to have to leave it there for the day.
Mhm.
But we have
Okay.
made some progress. And hopefully given Fraser and yourself a little bit more understanding about that getter and setter. Okay, so we want to add, if they want to be over 100 years, we need to add not a negative number, but a positive one. Oh no, wait, I'm talking shit, aren't I? You were right, I'm sorry. I'm trying to make someone be born 100 years in the future, which is crackpot.
Okay, so that should be fine. Don't know why it doesn't run. Oh, it did as V. Okay.
Okay, it didn't work. So
So-
so I would step in and debug it, or just change it to 101.
Yep. Okay, something like that. Yeah. Okay. I think it's just 100 wasn't quite enough.
Yeah.
I
Well,
guess.
the test we had was greater than 100.
Yes.
So 100 isn't greater than 100, but 101 is. So I'm not being facetious, you know.
Yeah.
It's true. Cool. Excellent. Okay. I'm going to leave you boys to just dwell on what we've looked at.
Okay.
I'll get the video up as soon as I can, but it takes a bit of while to process, and I've got a few bits and bobs I need to do between now and 6.
Okay.
Just click back on person for me. Oh, you are. Excellent. Okay. So a quick revision. We've got some private fields which are not exposed. But to get the goodness out of them, we wrote some public properties. And some of the public properties are checking a valid range. So date of birth is doing some validity checks. We've decided that 6 is too young and over 100 is too old. And we're using the property to prevent that from happening. We've got a read-only property called age, which does some maths and returns the age based on a different property. So this is a property without a field. There's no lowercase a for age, is there? Right.
No.
Cool. And we've got a first name which returns a ridiculous private field called X. We don't know what X means. We can only guess. Well, I'm guessing it's the first name. And we've intercepted the setting of it to make sure that it's nicely formatted. So this is some good encapsulation here, and I'm teaching it a bit clumsily today. I'm sorry, I'm on the back foot. But
Okay.
what we've done is we've got private workings and we're choosing how people use our class. You can't give it a wrong date. You can't give it a lowercase, or you can give it a lowercase name, but we will change it to what we want it to be. As the class designers, we're making that decision. And those min and max ages, actually, you can remove those.
Okay.
Because we're not using them. I mean, we've hard coded 6 and 100 elsewhere. But we're not ever likely, I'm deciding that we're not ever going to change those. So we can just, let me just build them in there. Okay, that's good. And we wrote some unit tests to check all of that works. And I attempted to answer what does the empty get and the set do? Well, it saves you writing a bit of code. If there's no requirement to interfere with the values coming in and out, you just write an empty get and set, and the compiler fills in the missing bit. Cool. Okay, I'm going to leave you stew on that, gents. What time are we on tomorrow? 10?
I think, yes.
Okay, good stuff. And we'll proceed tomorrow with writing some code to save a person to a disk and load it up from a disk. And once we've got that, then we can write a person manager website, which allows you to create a new person, save him to your disk, load up your website tomorrow, and he's still there. Cool.
We have got that here. I don't know if you want to do it slightly differently. Just let you know.
Oh, look at that. Look at that.
Mike had done that before the thing.
Oh, brilliant. Well, I tell you what, you fellas have a look at that, and do you understand what it's doing?
He explained it, kind of.
Yeah, explained it a bit, but...
Okay. Well, what you can do is save it. You know, you've got your file names, and it's got a file path there, C user precision desktop. You need to give it a folder. Well, I guess you can specify your own folder, right?
Mm-hmm.
So do those methods work? Do you know?
He tested them and also looked in the file, like the folder, and it was
they were
there.
Cool.
I haven't done it myself
Okay.
yet. No.
Well, what we're going to do actually is move that to a repository pattern.
Okay.
So if you want to do more learning tonight, look up repository pattern, C#. And if you don't, that's absolutely fine. Don't worry at all. But what we'll do is we'll move it from the person class, because we want the person to just represent the person. We don't want the person to be able to load and save. We want some other class to do that. Okay. So what we'll end up doing tomorrow is moving some of that functionality to elsewhere. But yeah, if those saves worked, then that's great. You're halfway there. We'll shortcut that tomorrow.
Okay, cool.
And then we'll build a website for using it. Cool. Okay. I'll see you tomorrow, gents.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
See you.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.